how about a horror film that's about the trauma of being a refugee, of being an asylum seeker? That's what His House is about. Welcome to October Scaries, where I'm watching 13 horror movies that I haven't seen before and reviewing them. His House came out in 2020. It's a British horror film about a refugee couple from South Sudan who had to escape their home country and journey to England to seek refuge, and they are granted refuge on a probationary basis, and they are trying to adjust to this English town, but they're having a very hard time because their damn house is haunted. Like there's an evil in the house on top of the hostilities of the town. This movie is so impressive. It is written and directed by Remi Weekes. The story though is by Felicity Evans and Toby Van Abels. I had to look this up in terms of like what is the difference between screenplay by, written by, and story by. So the story by credit goes to the people who come up with the basic outline of the story. So this is the plot. These are the characters. These are the scenes, broadly speaking, okay? And then the screenplay by goes to the person who writes like the detailed, or the people who write the detailed script, the dialogue, the character direction and movements. This is what they're doing. The character arcs, the detailed scenes. That person gets the screenplay by credit. It stars Wunmi Mosaku and Shope Dirisu, as well as Matt Smith. It has themes of seeking asylum, immigration, like forced immigration, survival, survivor's guilt as well, grief on multiple layers, the grief of having to leave your country, the grief of being in a new country, assimilation and the grief and trauma that comes with that, trauma on multiple levels, grief from child loss as well, racism, xenophobia, and I'm sure others that I'm forgetting. It tackles so much and it does it so well, and it is almost perfect. It's almost perfect. Okay, so the couple is Bo, right? Bo Major and Rial Major. Bo played by Shope and Rial played by Wunmi, and they have a child named Niagak. Okay, so we see them from starting in South Sudan. They hop into a truck. That's how the movie opens. And then we see them on a raft on the ocean. The raft capsizes. They lose Niagak, and they survive. They make it to England. The movie does an incredible job of showing just how hostile the process is. I'm not familiar with the process in England, but I recognized everything that I saw. I was not an asylee, but I am an immigrant. And so these people, like the fact that they're given $74 for both of them, $74 a week. Yes, they're given a house, but it's called a house because it has a roof and some doors. It is dilapidated. They're not allowed to have any friends over. They're not allowed to throw parties. They're not, and like if they and they're not allowed to work, of course. And if they mess up in any way, they will be denied and thrown back to South Sudan. There's the way they're spoken to, right? So you have the government workers, like Matt Smith's character, telling them, be one of the good ones. You have other government workers talking about like, his house is better than my house, ignoring, or his house is bigger than my house, ignoring that like it's not a house. There's no electricity. The paint is peeling. It's a shack essentially. Or like I think there's a nurse who was trying to make small talk with Rial, and when Rial says like I lost everyone in my family or I lost my child, the woman leaves, doesn't say anything. She goes silent and just leaves her alone in her grief. It's hostile. One of the most powerful moments in the movie is a scene where Rial is lost. She's looking for directions and she sees this group of teenage black boys, and you see the relief come over her because black people, these black children will help her. And when she opens her mouth to talk to those boys, they make fun of her. They make fun of her accent. They make fun of her for not speaking English, literally telling her it's English over here. They tell her to go back where she comes from. And of course, they mess with her in terms of like where she needs to go. It's heartbreaking, but also so real, especially when you realize that like those kids are probably first or second generation Black Brit. Their parents or their grandparents or their great-grandparents maybe are probably immigrants, and this is how they're choosing. This is how all skinfolk and kinfolk. It's powerful. It's so sad and heart wrenching. Okay, so that's the immigrant experience. In terms of the assimilation, so Bowl is basically like the primary character of the two main characters. That's kind of the downside of the movie, but I'll get to that. He's the one who wants to assimilate. He wants to grab this opportunity with both hands. Starts dressing like a white man. It wants to eat with only utensils as opposed to with their hands, as is, part of their culture. As is their culture. Insists on speaking English, singing, English songs or whatever, like English songs. He wants to assimilate, but he's also the one who's going through it, seeing crap and stuff like that. On the horror element, while we're on that, very well done. Very well done. This movie literally had me nervous about what was creeping around the corners, the sounds, the special effects. Very effective. Had me tense and nervous. He's experiencing all of this. For a large part of this, Rial is off screen. She is upstairs. She very quickly accepts that he is being haunted. She believes it because they have this myth, the Apeth, which is a witch. The Apeth comes to punish those who sinned, pretty much. And she says the Apeth followed them from the ocean. Bowl is in denial, like, no, that's not what's happening. Meanwhile, he don't want talking to them and seeing them. And so they have her be very accepting, which keeps her off screen. She is grieving the loss of Niagak, but it's mostly off screen. She's very silent, and I wish they would have done more, that they would have given Wunmi more, because by the time we get to the climax of the movie, they kind of rush everything and just like, yes, they show us, but it's also kind of an information dump. And I think we needed more time to justify the ending. So essentially, the haunting that Bowl is going through, it's a psychological situation. I thought it was really happening. But my friend was like, no, this is like all in the head. And I'm like, that makes sense. Do I like that? Yes, I like it, but it kind of adds to my issues with the story. Okay, so Niagak is the issue for me. So they reveal that child, and there was something a little off at the very beginning when, in his excitement to start their new lives, Bull says, we can finally start a family. And I was like, finally start a family? You had a child with you. That was not their child. They stole somebody's child because, the person, it was very Titanic. The person was like, you can't come on this bus. Like, we ain't got no space. And then they snatched a child that's standing next to them. And they show you the mother of that child running after the bus, like, Niagak. For me, the thing is, so the witch wants Bowl to sacrifice himself, wants to eat him because of what he did. As they show him doing this, Rial is emotionless. She's emotionless, aka culpable. And so they kidnap this child, essentially. That mother's last moments on Earth before she's killed by the army or the Bugsy, the gang of people, whoever. I think it's an army. It's a civil war. Her last moments is seeing someone kidnap her child. She wasn't grateful. This wasn't an agreement. Her child was kidnapped. And then the child, when the raft capsizes, Bo abandons the child and just saves Rial. And so Rial is experiencing this deep grief for a child that they freshly kidnapped. There's an imbalance in terms of the depth of her emotion versus where we end up at the end of the movie. There's an emotional disconnect. It's like for the whole duration of the movie, they were like blowing into this balloon, filling up the balloon. And my perfect ending, like the balloon would have popped. It would have popped. Instead, the air is let out of the balloon. It just flies like all over the place. Rial is grieving. She doesn't want to let go of the kid's necklace or whatever. She wants to remember. It's like it's a lot of emotion for a child that they kidnapped and didn't seem to stay with for. I mean, like, it was a montage. We're not sure how long they were together, but there's that. I I wish that I wish it wasn't psychological and that there really was a witch after them. And that if so, Bo would have actually been sacrificed and she would have gotten the daughter back. Or, since it is psychological, the fact that like he seemingly just had to deal with the past and just accept that everything happened. And so the movie ends with, because he had been taking a hammer to those walls trying to find what's behind the wall, what's trying to reach out to him. And the government workers had come to visit and they were like, what are you doing? Like, you're on the verge of losing this. You're on probation. And so the movie ends with them being like, Rial being like, we're going to be fine. I'm going to paint the walls red. And, they're looking very happy. And it's kind of like hopeful that they're going to adjust. And I'm sitting there like, I'm stuck on y'all tormented that woman in her last moments. Y'all are murderers. You're not just survivors, you're murderers. And there's something there about like just what you have to do to survive. But I feel like that choice to have them kidnap a child and that's how they made their way out, that is heavy unto itself. But I feel like it was treated as like a footnote when that child is also a victim of the war. But now, not only is she a victim of the war, she's a victim of these two, and we just gloss over that in favor of them because they're the main characters. That didn't hit for me. I feel like we needed like 20 to 30 more minutes to fully work through this. We find out about also Rial's additional trauma towards the end. Like, it's not just the daughter. It's the fact that on the day that they escaped, I believe, she was a teacher and the military or whoever, the rebels, whatever they are, whatever we're calling them, they were organizing, they were killing people. They shot everyone in her classroom and she survived by hiding in a cupboard. So that is her trauma. And so I don't know why we didn't just go with that. We had to put a child in it and make her the one who's attached to the child. And we didn't find out about this additional trauma until the very end. And it just felt rushed. They should have spent more time with her. They should have at least been introducing this part, this additional thing for her along the way, like feeding into us little by little. Instead, she's mostly off screen when when Bo is hearing voices and being touched by stuff. She's mostly off screen, and they also give her the stance of like accepting that they are haunted by the Apeth. I feel that the movie shifted the tone at the very end. Like, Rial wanted to leave. She wanted to go back home because she wasn't having it with England, partly due to the grief, but then she very suddenly switches and is like, I want to make it work. She saves Bo from the monster to signify that like she's accepting that she's in a new place. I needed more. I needed more from that. So very impressive movie, very good, but I give it only a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5 out of 5. I wish I could. I read an interview with the director, an article that said that in post-production, they had a difficult time trying to find the balance between the horror element and the drama, and which I'm like, okay, yeah. And granted it was post, but the drama part, like y'all needed a little something more. The horror part was fantastic, very impressive, great acting by Chope and Wunmi, almost perfect exploration of so many subjects. They included so much about the refugee, like being a refugee, that experience, but in a horror setting. 4 out of 5. If you've seen His House, let me know what you think.